We've got some breaking news as the New York Giants have scheduled their first interview to be the next head coach for the New York Giants. A lot more to discuss on today's show, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel. No place on YouTube will keep you up to date like we will on this coaching search, the NFL draft. I'm going to the combine, as well as NFL free agency. So hit that sub button and lock us in. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports, and I am Marshall Green. Let's start with the head coach search. Adam Schefter breaking the news that former Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski is currently expected to speak with the Falcons, the Titans, and the New York Football Giants about their head coach vacancies. We heard from Joe Schoen today on Monday that the head coach search is going to start this week. Interviews will start, and the first one that we have officially heard about is former Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski with the New York Giants. This comes on the heels after Ian O'Connor said this morning, quote, "As we sit here right now, I think Kevin Stefanski is the leader in the Giants clubhouse. The team has had internal conversations about John Harbaugh, as you would expect, in case he leaves the Ravens. Harbaugh would hurdle Stefanski if he's fired." And over the last 24 to 48, even 72 hours, the smoke around Stefanski and the New York Giants has gotten thicker and thicker. The fire is there, and it is starting to burn even brighter. It seems like the Giants and Stefanski are on a collision course to get married and be the next duo in the NFL. That's what it sounds like at this moment. Still a long way to go. Still an entire process to go through. But with interviews starting this week, according to Joe Schoen, Stefanski is the first one. And it sounds like he is the leader in the clubhouse, according to Ian O'Connor. And I don't think Ian said that because he just woke up and thought it. I believe he probably heard that from the inside. It's not just Ian O'Connor, though. The betting odds suggest that Stefanski is the runaway favorite at this point. The latest betting odds say that Stefanski is plus 200 to get the job. He comes in at number one. We'll do a deep dive into Stefanski momentarily. But coming in with the second best odds at the moment is Mike McCarthy, the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, as well as the former head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Won a Super Bowl with the Packers, worked with Aaron Rodgers, took Dak Prescott to another level, and won 12 games in 3 straight years. All the Cowboys did under Mike McCarthy was win 12 games when their quarterback was healthy and put up a lot of points. I would expect him to get an interview here pretty soon. Jeff Hafley, the current defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, he comes in with the third best odds to be the next Giants head coach at plus 600. He is someone that I have heard the New York Giants are big fans of. They love that he was the head coach at Boston College. He has ties to the area. He grew up a Giants fan. And it seems like if they are going to go in the defensive coordinator route, Hafley is at the top of their list. My dream candidate that actually has some legs to it is John Harbaugh, the current head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. If Harbaugh and the Ravens agreed to part ways, which is how I believe it will be announced, I don't think the Ravens would just come out and fire Harbaugh after it's been 15 years with him there. If they agree to part ways, which I absolutely think is on the table, as does Adam Schefter, I think that he is going to be the coach. So right now you can get some good value with him at plus 700, but he would obviously have to become available. And then Clint Kubiak, Chris Shula, and Lou Anarumo are all plus 900 to be the next head coach. So a couple of names here. Some other names to monitor as well, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that one of these 7 names is likely to be the next head coach for Big Blue. Let's zero in on Kevin Stefanski here, as he was a 2-time Coach of the Year winner in 2000 and in 2023. We'll talk about 2023 in a second. He was the second Browns head coach in history with multiple 11-plus win seasons, and he got the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs 2 times, and it had been decades since they got and won a playoff game. Prior to that, he did win a playoff game with Baker Mayfield, I believe, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out to my guy Monty on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Awesome dude. Super high-level ball knower as well about the Giants. Saying 2+ time NFL Coach of the Year award winners. Don Shula, Chuck Knox, Bill Belichick, Allie Sherman, George Halas, George Allen, Joe Gibbs, Mike Ditka, Bill Parcells, Dan Reeves, Bruce Arians, Ron Rivera, and Kevin Stefanski. So he is in rare air when it comes to him being a multi-time head coach of the year candidate. I thought that his most impressive season was in 2023. We'll talk about that coming up momentarily, but I do want to give a major shout out to our sponsor of today's show, and that is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in the game, and they're hooking you up with an awesome deal. When you download the account and you create an account and you make your first $5 lineup, they're going to get you $50 in lineups for free. All you have to do is use the promo code CLNS. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoop action almost every night, the action never stops. And Prize Picks lets you take control. They have this awesome new feature, early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out on those winnings before the game even finishes. I've already got my two-man lineup ready to go for the playoffs. I'm taking the less on Bryce Young passing yards, and I'm also going to take the less on Josh Allen passing yards. I think that game could get a little muddy, not in the rain sense, but kind of on the ground, and I think that is how the Buffalo Bills could win that ball game. You can roll with my picks or fade my picks. I just ask that you do it at Prize Picks with that promo code CLNS. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. All right, 6 years for Stefanski with the Cleveland Browns. In year one, they go 11-5. Their offense averages 25.5 points per game, the 14th best in the NFL. That was with Baker Mayfield at the helm. In 2021, a little bit of a step back. You go 8-9, you average 20.5 points per game, and it falls to the 20th best offense. Then you go and add Deshaun Watson. You go 7-10, you average 21.2 points per game, the 18th best. And then in 2023, which I thought was his best coaching season by far, 11-6, you have the 10th best offense when it comes to a points per game basis. And these are the quarterbacks that played for him. Joe Flacco went 4-1. Deshaun Watson went 5-1. PJ Walker went 1-1. Dorian Thompson-Robinson went 1-2, and then you lost the one game that Jeff Driscoll started. In 2024, you go 3-14, and that is when it started to kind of skid a little bit, winning just 8 games in the last 2 years and averaging about 15 points per game, the second and the worst in the National Football League. And look, it's a very nuanced conversation when it comes to Stefanski. Like, the list of quarterbacks that he played and had to win games with is like a CVS receipt. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, DTR, PJ Walker, Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, and Dylan Gabriel. The dude went 4-1 with a 38-year-old Joe Flacco. And he also had to do it after making what I think is the worst trade in NFL history in Deshaun Watson. And reports are coming out today that Stefanski was against trading for Watson. You look at what Baker did with Stefanski in those years when he was there. Spent 2 years there before he was, I don't remember if it was cut or traded, ended up on the Panthers somehow. First year there, they go 11-5, completes almost 63% of his passes, averaging almost 225 passing yards per game, throws for 26 touchdowns in 16 games to 8 picks. And the next year, not as good as it probably should have been. And that's probably what motivated the Browns to go out and make a trade, a seismic trade for Deshaun Watson like they did. I think when you talk about what does Kevin Stefanski want to do on the offensive side of the football, he wants to pound the rock. He wants to operate under center and he wants to work that play action passing game. You go back to when he was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings in 2019. That is when Kirk Cousins had a lot of success for the Vikings. I'm going to pull up his stats here in 2019. Throws for 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and completes 69% of his passes. He wants his quarterback to stay in the pocket, have some mobility as well. Obviously wants to work that rollout game, a true West Coast style, but they want to pound the rock. And the early days that he had with the Browns, I believe the reason they were most successful is because they were able to pound the rock. When you talk about yards per game and where that ranks for the Browns under Stefanski, 3rd, 4th, 6th. And then something in 2023 happened. Anybody know what that is? Nick Chubb got hurt. So I almost kind of juggle the fact of, was it Nick Chubb? Was it Kevin Stefanski? I do think he deserves a lot of points, though, for putting Nick Chubb in a spot to be great. But also Nick Chubb, he was a dog in his prime. The last 2 years, though, did not run the ball all that well. I will say this, and I think about this twofold. I worry a little bit about Jackson Dart and Kevin Stefanski's offense. Because what Jackson Dart does well is kind of still what he did well in college. In the gun, 5 wide, like zone, RPO, run pass option plays, scrambling, creating. Where does he kind of struggle? Under center and under center play action. And that is what Stefanski wants to do. So on one side, I'm like, well, I don't really love the fit there. But then on the other side, I'm also thinking, well, if Dart wants to be a long-term success in the NFL, he's going to have to learn and be great under center and be great in the play action game. So while Stefanski doesn't necessarily do what Jackson Dart does best, can Stefanski be the quarterback that continues to elevate Jackson Dart and add more tools to his tool bag of being under center, working that play action game? Pat Leonard, shout out to him on his podcast on YouTube, said Stefanski liked Jackson Dart in the pre-draft process, And the Cleveland Browns were looking to draft potentially Jackson Dart at the top of round 2 with the 33rd overall pick. Stefanski apparently liked the way that Jackson Dart would fit into his system. He liked his character and things of that nature. And he even went as far as to say that Jackson Dart liked Kevin Stefanski. So something to think about in the back of your mind. I'll ask you guys this question. If you had to pick one of these former head coaches that have an offensive side of the ball focus, who would it be? Is it Mike McCarthy? Is it Kevin Stefanski? Sound off for me in the comment section. I think Stefanski is a solid candidate and one that you should absolutely interview and see what his plan is. Maybe he can bring in Schwartz as the defensive coordinator who was with him in Cleveland. There's some really good defensive coordinators out there as well. Jonathan Gannon just got fired from the Cleveland Browns, from the Arizona Cardinals, and Raheem Morris is out there as well. I think he could go back to the Rams if Chris Shula does leave. I like Stefanski. I don't have him as number 1 on my list. I would rather have John Harbaugh, but of the available coaches, he's right there with the guy like Chris Shula or Clint Kubiak or Mike McCarthy for me, but I wouldn't say that he's the runaway favorite on my list. Some things I worry about, some things I like. The fact that you won a playoff game in Cleveland, got to the playoffs 2 times, won 11 games 2 times. I don't think that should be taken lightly. I do have some worries, though, about him as the head coach. We'll get a lot more opportunities to talk about Stefanski and what continues to go down in this coaching search. So make sure you are subscribed, have those notifications on, and you are following me on social media at @MarshallGreen_.